This is the Saab J29D Tunnan, and it is the first Swedish jet aircraft in War Thunder. Now, the J29 first flew in 1948 and did go on to be very successful, with over 600 airframes built, many of which were later upgraded. Now, the aircraft was of course primarily used by the Swedish Air Force, but it was also used by Austria and also the UN, who used it from 1961 to 1964 as part of a peacekeeping mission in the Republic of Congo. In War Thunder, we have the J29D variant as a BR 8.7 Tier 5 premium for the Swedish. The aircraft uses a license-built de Havilland Ghost RM2B engine with up to 2,400 kilograms of force, and then you also have 430mm Akan M55 cannons, which replace the 20mm Mark V Hispanos, of which are used on most other Tunnan variants. These 30mm cannons have 100 rounds of ammunition per gun, with a rate of fire of 1,400 rounds per minute. All four guns together have a 1-second burst mass of just over 24 kilograms per second, and have access to either default, air targets, ground targets, or stealth belts. Some of these belts have up to 47mm of best effective pen, which will give the J29D some CAS capability alongside the unguided rockets, as the guns could be used against more lightly armoured ground targets. So now moving on to the flight performance, it is worth saying right away, this is just my personal opinion on the aeroplane. If you happen to fly it out a different way and that works for you, then that is the best way to go. Same can be said for any of my conclusions. If you disagree with them, then that is perfectly fair enough. So I found that the J29 is a fairly competitive aircraft for its BR, although certainly not overpowered by any degree. Overall, it handles fairly well. I did not find it to be the most effective turn fighter, but that is likely in part down to my low-level Swedish crew. In a 1v1 situation, you can win dependent on what you are facing, but more than one enemy on your tail at a time tends to be kind of difficult to deal with. The J29D does also have an afterburner, so your higher level performance does feel a bit better than most non-afterburner jets at this BR, and in most cases you will also have a superior climb rate to most other jets at this battle rating. I found the low speed acceleration to be somewhat lackluster, but then once you hit and exceed around 300 miles an hour, you will begin to accelerate a bit quicker in a straight line, but then once you get to around 620, 630 miles an hour at sea level, you will start to get your VNE warning when you're sort of overspeeding the aircraft. You don't really want to go much past that, because your wings of course will then start to rip off and all that sort of stuff happens, so you don't want to go much faster than that, and due to that there are many aircraft, especially in up tiers, that will catch up to you rather easily, so especially in up tier games, just don't rely solely on your speed. Another thing to note is that the rudder and elevator can get a little bit compressy at higher speeds, as well as bleeding off speed quite fast when turning at anything much over 400 miles an hour, but on the whole these are fairly minor negatives and are not a massive drawback on the overall performance. A few more things to note is that firstly, the J29D does get a fully detailed cockpit, something of which will be a nice touch for sim pilots and people that just like a fully complete model. Unfortunately, there are no secondary camouflage options, although there are a few user skins popping up on live.war thunder. Game modes for this aircraft are currently locked to only Air, RB, AB and Sim, although in the future ground and naval game modes will also be available when Sweden gets the respective vehicle types. So now getting into some gameplay, I do want to say right away, I am by no means a pro jet player. I just play the aeroplane, try and have some fun, and that's more or less it. My gun aiming with these guns, at least for most of these games, in some cases comes down to just sort of spray and pray. So to any of you Jet Master Race people, I do apologise if my gun control traumatizes you. That aside though, we're now going to take a look at just how effective these 30mm cannons are. Of course, as I said, 1,400 rounds per minute and 24 kilograms per second burst mass, which can be highly effective if they hit the enemy target, as they did there on that Hunter FGA-9. Went in on a head-on, my shots hit, I avoided all of his rounds, and it came off just as planned. Swift F1 going in, fire just a burst of rounds. Luckily, they clip his wing, that is him down, so that is yet another kill for me. Final kill of this game was on a Javelin. Yeah, fired a few bursts at him, some of them missed. This was an earlier game in the aircraft, so at this point I was still getting used to the leading of the guns, but eventually I did get the hang of it. So there's the Javelin. Of course it is a fairly big target. First burst misses, second burst, nice central hit into that aircraft, takes him out of the sky fairly easily. J29, I fire a burst, doesn't hit him, and someone else gets the kill, and that was essentially the end of that game. One of my earlier games, 3 kills, first on the team, I would count that as a fairly decent starter game. So into the next game, I was starting to get into the rhythm of the aeroplane, especially getting used to those guns. I was able to save a lot more ammunition by actually leading them correctly and getting solid hits with less rounds fired, as you can see with that Sabre. Single burst, direct hit, that was that F40 Sabre completely knocked out. And I was actually really happy with that kill. I went in, was going in from the side, and I was actually expecting to miss my shots and then have to pull onto his tail. But luckily, single burst knocked him out completely. Valtor, first rounds, they miss. I aim up again. Second rounds, they also miss. But then I get close. He begins to turn, exposing a bit more surface area, and I can get a solid hit and knock the back of his aircraft off. Second kill, wasted more ammo than I would have liked to, but nonetheless, I did get that kill, and I still have ammo to use. That ammunition is, of course, about to be put to use on this Swift F7, who, for whatever reason, slowed right down, allowed me to catch up. First burst criticals his elevator, second burst just destroys the remainder of his aircraft, securing me my third kill of the game. Final kill was on a Valtor who was going back to the enemy airfield, last enemy on their team, and you know, I just got a quick glancing blow, but with the great burst mass of these guns, it was enough to take him down relatively easily. He's coming in, tries to pull onto me, but luckily he doesn't quite get there, and I'm able to take him out with just a few rounds from my guns. And that was the end of the game. 4 kills, first on the team, and yet another victory. So into our next game, this time a night game. The J29 doesn't specifically have a big advantage here, as of course it doesn't have any radar or anything such as that. But you know, if you're in a night game and you do keep a good lookout, you can generally spot enemy aircraft quite a while before they spot you, just from visual confirmation alone. I took out a G91, who I saw even before the spotting system brought him up. Next up, I kill an enemy Valtor. Not exactly the proudest move. He was on the airfield, he wasn't flying. Not exactly the most honourable thing to do, but nonetheless, it was an enemy aircraft. He was there rearming, and you know, I've seen a trend of Valtor pilots rearming and then just flying to space and stretching out the game. So I figured the best thing to do, take him out while he's an easy target. After leaving the enemy airfield, come across another G91, single burst, takes him out. Again, he didn't try and evade, most likely because due to the nighttime conditions, he did not spot me. I was behind him. He probably didn't see me. Same for this guy who wouldn't have seen me until it was too late. He was stalling out. Nice, easy kill for me. Finally, I do take out an enemy Sabre. I get a critical. He does not even spot until he's right next to me, allowing me to get a quick burst off into him. Critical hit, damage of his rudder. And then, you know, he runs away, but eventually it gives me the kill. I presume what happened was he went off the map, and since he was criticaled, it gave me the kill, rather than just respawning him back in the other direction. But nonetheless, that was my 5th and final kill of that game, which we did then go on to win. Right, so the last game of this video, all of my kills in this game are head-ons. Firstly, G91. He does damage me pretty badly. The sort of root section of the wings on either side, bit of damage to the nose, but other than that, I am fairly okay. Second head-on, Hunter. Go head-on, pull out early. I only just miss his rounds, but luckily I don't get damaged any further by the Hunter, but I do knock him out. And finally, a Valtor who was camping the friendly airfield, trying to escape back to his base. He's a bit damaged. Go for the head-on, pull out, and that is my 3rd kill. 3 head-ons in a row there. That was him down. Luckily, though, I hit his wing. I almost missed. I didn't hit the fuselage, just clipped the wing, and that is what took that Valtor down. I am fairly badly damaged. Luckily, I still had all of my gear legs intact, so I could actually go and land the aeroplane. Was missing a flap, though, so I did a flapless landing, and really just approached a bit quicker, touchdown, used my remaining ammunition to decelerate as quickly as possible, and then just used the brakes. The brakes aren't the strongest, but they do their job, and they work just fine. And that was the end of the game. 3 kills, 2nd on the team this time, but nonetheless, it was another victory, and it definitely went fairly well. So on the whole, my experience of playing the J29 since its release, fairly positive, I would say. I have, of course, had patches or strings of a few bad games where I just kept getting killed without any kills to my name, and I got kind of annoyed about that. But then, you know, you would begin to get the hang of the aircraft again after a few games, and then you'll be able to get in and actually have some real fun with it. As I said, it is a competitive aircraft, but in no means is it overpowered. It's an aircraft where I was going to say if you know what you're doing, but you don't really need to know what you're doing. You just need to get a hang of the airplane, just fly it, and, you know, you can just have fun with it. And I really do like aircraft that are like that. Not specifically overpowered, not specifically crappy, but you can play them nicely and just enjoy playing the game. Currently, of course, I do have the J29D on a test drive, but I will actually be picking this up. It's currently €49.99 on the Gaijin store, and as I said, it is the Tier 5 premium aircraft for the Swedes. So, you know, I am going to pick it up. The Swedish tech tree, the air tech tree, the full tree, it's coming out next update, update 1.95, probably sometime mid or late December. I will be picking this aircraft up before then. I do want to grind out this tech tree, especially some of Sweden's later jet aircraft, such as the Draken, the Viggen. I really do love those aircraft. So getting this to grind them out, I think is a good choice. And of course, I would make the assumption that buying the J29 would give you access to the Swedish tech tree closed beta test. Nonetheless though, I think I've more or less summed it up. A fairly positive experience. I have enjoyed playing the aircraft. I am of course by no means a pro jet player, but I just take it out, enjoy the aeroplane, which I have done with this aeroplane. I've enjoyed playing it. The guns, when you get used to the leading, are very effective. The high rate of fire, the very high burst mass, does allow you to take out enemy aircraft relatively quickly if you can just get that leading down. If you can get the leading down, actually hit the enemy airplane, you shouldn't have any issues. Anyway though, thank you very much for watching the video. If you did enjoy, please consider dropping a like, maybe even subscribe to the channel. I will of course have a few more 1.93 vehicle reviews coming out soon, including, but not exactly limited to, the Mi-28, the Car 50, and maybe also the British Phantom. I will definitely have to give that one a look. Anyway though, thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.